This video will discuss the fundamentals of silver stacking. Keeping in mind a fundamental is an essential part of something. It is the foundation or base upon which something is developed or built. For a new stacker, it is essential that you understand the silver stacking fundamentals. And for the veteran stacker, well, sometimes we lose focus and get off track from our fundamentals. It can be so easy to get caught up in the new thing that just hit the market. And before you know it, you realize that you're no longer following the strategy that you began with. Now, I'm not talking about adaptation. We all need to make adjustments to keep up with the market trends and to take advantage of buying and selling opportunities as they come along. What I'm talking about is the core principles of silver stacking. The constants, if you will, many of which should be determined or achieved before you buy your first piece of silver. These are the things that all stackers should be considering as they journey down the silver path. Let's talk about some of these fundamentals. Get out of debt. With the exception of long-term debt like auto loans, school loans, or home mortgages, pay off all your debt before stacking any silver. Stacking silver to retain wealth when you're paying a 20% interest rate on an open balance on a credit card makes no sense at all. You're losing your wealth to a bank for the right to borrow that fiat. Prioritize your income to pay for all your financial obligations first to stay out of debt. The bills have to come first. If you are not in a position where you have additional funds left over from your income, then you shouldn't be stacking silver yet. Have an emergency fund to sustain you or your household for 1 to 3 months. This fundamental will allow for the unforeseen emergencies which always occur in life. Having this fund available to you may prevent having to liquidate part or all of your stack in order to cover an emergency financial obligation. Do lots of research. I have been a collector of coins for many years, but I did not stack a single piece of bullion for the first 3 months until I learned all I could about stacking. It was really hard to hold back, but I made a commitment to myself to do it. It is my philosophy to be as informed as possible, so the decisions that I make are as sound as possible. I never limit myself to a single point of view, no matter how enticing it may sound. Don't be mesmerized by other stackers' successes. Stacking is a very personal thing. I can't overstate that enough. Stacking is a very individualized effort to achieve a specific set of personal goals to arrive at a desired end state. The path of two stackers will almost never follow the same course, even if their basic strategies are the same. There are an infinite number of variables which affect a stacker's journey: availability of funds, access to markets, level of knowledge, and the list goes on and on. So trying to copy another successful stacker's strategy may put yourself in a difficult situation, one that does not subscribe to your best interests or your stacking goals. That's not to say that observing and learning from other stackers won't be useful to you. All the knowledge you can obtain about stacking will only allow you to develop a solid strategy of your own and hopefully learn from others' mistakes and taking advantage of still the other stackers' successes. There is so much information out there, and because there are so many variables, knowing as much as possible will prepare you to mitigate or possibly correctly react to a situation that you may find yourself in. I never stop learning. I absorb as much knowledge as possible on subjects such as stacking, coins, bullion, finance, global economies, laws which influence precious metals, the U.S. economy, the Federal Reserve, the financial markets and how they work, how to read commodity charts, and even studying historical data regarding precious metals and the things that affect them. It is said that if you cannot learn from the past, then you are destined to repeat it. Okay, that's enough harping on research. I think you get my point. Next, you want to determine what goals you would like to achieve by stacking precious metals. These goals can be just as varied as the strategies. Everybody is driven by a different motivator, meaning what is important to one may have no importance whatsoever to another. Any task you set out upon should have a goal, a finish line, an ending point where you know that you've achieved what you've set out to accomplish. Determining what that accomplishment will be will vary depending upon your needs, desires, and ambitions. Something to keep in mind, silver stacking is not a get-rich-quick scheme. That's not how it works. The bullion you stack will not become profitable to sell for months and most probably for years in the future. Just research the history of silver markets and you will see that it all depends on the ebb and flow of the economy and markets. Silver stacking is a test of patience. If you cannot make silver purchases and hold on to them for years if necessary, then silver stacking may not be for you. Now that your finances are in order, you have sufficient knowledge about stacking, and have established the goals that you want or need to achieve, it's time to figure out what form of precious metal you want to stack. Bars, coins, rounds, hand-poured silver, constitutional silver, or semi-numismatics. Bullion Bar, a mass of cast metal pressed or shaped into a convenient form, generally purchased at a price close to its intrinsic or precious metal value, also known as the spot price. Bullion Coin, a precious metal coin whose market value is determined by its inherent precious metal content. They are bought and sold mainly for investment purposes. They are produced by a sovereign mint with a denominated face value, but will be considered as bullion because they trade at a price relative to its intrinsic value. Their content, weight, and purity are guaranteed and backed by the sovereign country for which it was made. Bullion Rounds are privately minted coins produced by private firms rather than by a government mint. Like bullion coins, they are round in shape and stamped on both faces with symbolic and meaningful designs. They are marked with their metal content, weight, and purity, but do not carry a face value in currency and are not backed by any sovereign government. Semi-numismatic bullion usually refers to limited issue bullion coins carrying significant premium above spot and produced by various government mints. Constitutional silver is simply U.S. currency, usually seen in dimes, quarters, and half dollars minted before 1965. Up until that point, coins made for U.S. currency still followed the constitutional mandate and were minted containing 90% silver. Hand-poured silver is a traditional alternative to pressed or struck silver. It can easily be distinguished from the pressed counterparts as their finish is rustic and less precise. It is not uncommon to spot soft-edged pits, dimples, or pore lines which give this form of bullion its uniqueness. Now that you know what your options are, you should carefully consider the pros and cons for each and which of these forms of bullion complement your stacking needs and goals. This concludes part 1 of this 2-part series.